Have you ever noticed something strange? People constantly talk about boomers. They analyze millennials. They obsess over Gen Z. Every generation seems to be under a microscope. Except one. Generation X. They're the generation that somehow slipped through the cracks. They're your older coworkers who rarely complain. Your parents who seem surprisingly self-sufficient. The people who adapted to the digital world without making a big deal about it. And if you've ever wondered why Gen X seems so independent, private, and emotionally tough, the answer has less to do with personality and more to do with the world they grew up in. Because for many of them, childhood looked very different from what it does today. Imagine being 8 years old. School ends, you walk home alone, unlock the front door, and step into an empty house. No parents. No phone to call. No text messages checking if you got home safely. No internet to keep you occupied. Just silence. For millions of Gen X children, this wasn't unusual. It was normal. They became known as the latchkey generation because many came home from school to empty houses while both parents were working. At first glance, that might not sound like a big deal, but psychologically, it changed everything. When you're constantly solving problems on your own, you learn a powerful lesson very early in life. If something needs to be done, it's your responsibility. There isn't always someone available to help. So they learn to make decisions. They learn to handle boredom. They learn to figure things out without supervision. And while that independence became one of their greatest strengths, it also shaped how they would see the world for the rest of their lives. But being alone wasn't the only lesson Gen X learned. They also grew up watching trust break down around them. Many were raised with a simple promise: work hard, follow the rules, and life will reward you. Then they watched that promise fall apart. They saw rising divorce rates. They watched companies lay off loyal employees. They witnessed economic uncertainty become a regular part of life. The message they received wasn't the one adults intended. It wasn't, everything will work out. It was, nothing is guaranteed. And when you grow up expecting certainty only to repeatedly encounter instability, you develop a very different mindset. Some call it skepticism. Others call it realism. Gen X tends to hope for the best while quietly preparing for the worst. Not because they're naturally pessimistic, because experience taught them that circumstances can change overnight. And once you've seen enough rugs pulled out from under people, you stop standing too comfortably on them. This same mindset helps explain another trait that often surprises younger generations: their love of privacy. Today, sharing your life online is completely normal. People document vacations, relationships, meals, opinions, and even personal struggles for the world to see. But Gen X grew up in a different reality. When they embarrassed themselves as teenagers, the moment disappeared. There were no viral videos, no screenshots, no permanent digital record. Mistakes faded with time. Because of that, privacy wasn't something special. It was simply how life worked. And many Gen Xers still carry that instinct today. To them, keeping parts of your life to yourself isn't secrecy, it's protection. The less attention you attract, the fewer problems you invite. But perhaps the most fascinating part of Gen X psychology is that their greatest strength may also be their greatest weakness: self-reliance. When something goes wrong, Gen X is remarkably capable. They're often calm in a crisis, resourceful under pressure, able to solve problems without panicking. But there's a hidden cost to always being the strong one. Many struggle to ask for help, not because help isn't available, but because they spent decades convincing themselves they shouldn't need it. When you've been handling things alone since childhood, dependence can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even embarrassing. So they carry burdens quietly, they manage stress privately, and they keep moving forward, even when they probably shouldn't have to do it all by themselves. In many ways, Generation X became the bridge between two worlds. They remember life before the internet, yet helped build the digital age. They grew up with independence, but raised children with greater involvement. They experienced an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. And maybe that's why they're so difficult to define. They're not better than younger generations. They're not worse. They're simply the product of a unique moment in history. A moment that taught them to be independent, adaptable, and cautious all at once. They're the bridge generation. And bridges rarely get much attention. They simply hold everything together while everyone else passes over them. And perhaps that's the most Gen X thing of all. They never expected anyone to notice.